Many who smoke cannabis have become so obsessed by the drug over the years that they can think of little else. It is hoped that this second series of videos will give them something broader to think about and expand their consciousness. I'm always rather suspicious of doctors who talk about God, but people talk of believers and unbelievers in such a muddled way that I must say something. I have observed that the most fundamental scientific observation that anyone can make is that the world is bigger than people. Part of that world is within people, vibrating their molecules and lifting or lowering their spirits. Muslims call it Allah, and scientists call it nature. Being so vast, no one individual can know it all. But it is in the nature of humanity to try, just as a toddler explores every nook and cranny of its world. In the meantime, both inner and outer space remain largely unknown. Being unknown, it is mysterious. But whatever word you use to call it, that part of the world that is bigger than people is the same for everyone, regardless of religious or ideological myth or legend. The fact that the world is bigger than people has been impressed upon the British since the beginning of time. We live on a small cluster of offshore islands in the middle of a tectonic plate, far from seismic upheavals, exposed to the prevailing wind off the Atlantic and bathed in the Gulf Stream. While the ground beneath our feet is stable, our weather is not. It can be almost tropically hot in summer and Arctic cold in winter, but it is generally neither one nor the other. We do not enjoy long, hot continental summers where people can safely put off jobs to tomorrow if they do not feel like doing them today. We do not endure long, cold winters where little can be done for months on end. For us, one day is wet, the next dry. Our ancestors lived by hunting and gathering and by fishing and farming. Good weather had to be exploited whenever it occurred, whether people felt like it or not. The freedom to take initiatives, common sense, self-discipline, forethought, hard work, and attention to detail were fundamental to survival for everyone from kings to crofters. Constant uncertainty about what the next day would bring lent a diffidence to our national character. Refusal to be dictated to by the weather gave us a certain defiance and determination. Its constant changing made us adaptable. The hopes and disappointments it engendered broadened our perspective and sharpened our sense of humour. From the earliest times, we have been kept on our toes by the climate. It moulded our character and made it uniquely British. There has therefore always been a fundamental requirement for individual liberty to go about our business freely whenever weather permitted. The British democratic tradition evolved as society struggled to develop checks and balances to defend themselves from the dictates of people with a passion for more power than they knew how to handle. Hence the evolution through Magna Carta, the Peasants' Revolt, the invention of Parliament, and so forth, and our down-to-earth system of ideas, way of life, and flexible, unwritten constitution. Our relatively free society, respecting individual liberty, gave inquiring minds the freedom to explore the world. Instead of being overawed by nature, we studied its laws. By understanding and exploiting them, we created the Industrial Revolution. Sharing the fruits of our Industrial Revolution then led to the greatest empire the world has so far known, and ultimately created the infrastructure of the modern world as we know it today. But the Russians and Americans were jealous. Both harbored old-fashioned imperial ambitions of their own. They sought to impose their standards and values on the world like the Romans. They thought that they, rather than nature, were the ultimate power in the world. Like sorcerers' apprentices, they botched it and created the issues we face today: social problems, ideological fundamentalism, the credit crunch, global warming, and so on. I recently learned that at a war summit in Tehran in 1943 between Churchill, Stalin, and Roosevelt, the exit strategy for the war was discussed. Churchill stayed at the British Embassy, while Roosevelt was lodged in a villa in the grounds of the Russian Embassy. After the formal business of the day, Churchill went home to the British Embassy, while Stalin and Roosevelt chatted into the night. It became clear that America and Russia had two war aims: the destruction of Germany and the dissolution of the British Empire. Ultimately, Britain, bankrupted by war, was forced to give premature independence to its colonies before they were ready. Had the empire been allowed to evolve, conditions for ordinary people in the colonies would have improved just as they did for ordinary people in Britain. There would not now be widespread poverty and corruption in Africa. There would at least be electricity, running water, and drains. In the final analysis, the evolution of our British democratic tradition lay in the fact that it respected the laws of nature and transcended ideology. As I was to discover, this state of affairs had gradually evolved over 15 centuries of cultural evolution. More next time. Bye.